Hello, and thanks for joining the session. Today we're going to continue looking at working with OAuth with the Astrocasts site. Yesterday we started doing some stuff specifically with Twitch at the app level. So just for a quick review, what we ended up doing was adding two new classes. We added the Twitch app config class that manages the configuration information for the application itself. So it's essentially my own personal Twitch connection. And then we also have the user config. And this is going to be for the application that will be connected for individual users. We're mainly focusing on the app level stuff at this point, but I figured it wouldn't hurt to sort of see how this goes as we bring some additional things out. So we looked at the app level model. We didn't create the user yet. The app level model is the OAuth credentials. So app OAuth credentials. It's going to have a type that is either Twitch, YouTube, or Facebook. It doesn't actually have a user on here because this is going to be application wide. We do have a unique constraint on the type so that I can only have one set of app OAuth credentials for any individual type of service that I'm connecting to. And if we pull up the database, we can see that we actually got the information that we were looking for in the database. So that was pretty exciting to actually have that there. The very last thing that I did was created a new command, I believe. Let's see here if we can actually find that. So command, Twitch subscribe command, Twitch publish metadata command. So this is where we're going to start using the code to begin with. Inside execute, we're going to need to do some things. The pieces that we're going to need for sure are the, let's see here, we need the OAuth app credentials, or no, app OAuth credentials. App OAuth credentials repository. Did I spell that right? No, I did not. There we go. Hello, welcome to the chat. Let's see if I can actually type here today. I normally can't communicate with the YouTube people, so let's see if this works right. I've been trying to get better at the communication across the board, so we'll see how that goes. Thanks for joining. Okay, so we have credentials spelled correctly now. I need to do the type. OAuth credentials repository. Okay, so we get that. What else are we going to need? If we look at our k.php file, the bits that we needed are this option information. So this option information we're actually having set by the container that has the configuration. So if we look in the controller that we were looking at, Adam on chat just asked if I ended up storing the token. I did end up storing the token. So if we look inside the app OAuth credentials table, I do actually have the token. I wasn't able to get it to work otherwise. We did try to do something with the client credentials grant. Let me try if I can pull that up. Twitch API was our implementation. Client, there we go. We extended the Twitch API client that we were using and instead just entered the client credentials. But this didn't work. The OAuth token that this gave me apparently isn't used for user level stuff. So I wasn't able to use this to update the title and things like that. So I don't know which things actually use this kind of grant or these kind of tokens, but it wasn't usable for what we needed. So we did actually implement the full OAuth dance thing here. I don't know what that's there for. So let's see here. If I go to, actually we did it on the command line, I think. So this is what we did. All right, so this gives us the URL that we have to go to. So we have to actually do this every time until we have some functionality that will look at what we have in the database. But what this did is gave us this code, and it redirected to the Twitter OAuth app redirect and gave it the code. So if we look in here now, this code, this access token originally had 05VH. If we refresh the database, it has a new access token. So we're able to keep this. We're able to set the expiration date time so that we can know when we need to use the refresh token. I just don't know how that mechanism actually works. And I was going to see if we could use it today, but this sets it out 3 hours, so I don't think we'll be able to use it. So we might have to look at how we handle refresh tokens tomorrow. So these are the bits that we already have. The thing that we're trying to do now is try to use the fact that we have access to this object. So we have the publish metadata command. We want to ultimately get the OAuth credentials. So let's see what I can do here. I'm going to I might just try to get stuff from the container for now. So this get, can I do that? Service. Can't remember what I can actually do inside here. Application, get. Gives me a command. I don't remember how to get access to it, so I guess we'll have to just use the DI for now. We'll actually create this sooner rather than later. So let's do the, we need the Twitch app config, because we're looking for the app config, so Twitch app config. All right, so that's going to be injected. We'll need that. If we look at what our controller was doing, Twitch controller, the way that we were getting this information was we were creating the options array just using this information. So we're going to have to do something similar here as well. So I'm going to copy what we did here to see how we actually created the Twitch API. The end result is that we don't want to do all of this every time. We just want to get the information and use it. But I'm going to copy it for now into our command. Okay, so this is going to get it from the local instance. This does look like I need the URL generator so that I can generate the correct URL. So that will be something that we have to bring in as well. So we need URL generator. And the reason I do all of these up front is because I can use the PHP unit, not PHP unit, the PHP Storm constructor generator. And it's not easy to go back in and do that unless someone knows a nice way to do that. If you add additional things that need to go on the constructor, then you just have to do the constructor generation again from scratch. Generator interface, so we need to get that one. All right. So we need the URL generator interface, or the URL generator injected. That would give us the ability to generate the URL. We need to pass it no parameters, and we need to make sure that it creates an absolute URL. So we need to get those values there. Here we'll just create this inline. Ultimately, this is what we want to be the service that we're going to create today is going to give us the Twitch API for whatever it is that we're actually looking for. So, all right, so we got everything we need here. What we did before was we were able to use the access code to update the channel. So let's do this, Twitch publish metadata command. Then we should be able to do Twitch API update channel. We can get the channel identifier from the Twitch app config. Get user ID, because that's the main user ID for this project. We need to get the access token. So this stuff we might not actually need now that I'm looking at this. Or we're going to have to get it from a slightly different way. So let's do... because we need to get our app OAuth credentials. And then we need to do find or create for Twitch. So we're going to have to do some fun stuff in here because I want to make this a little bit easier. So if we go in and look at this app OAuth credentials class, we have this find or create for Twitch. So this was some stuff to remove the boilerplate that we needed to do in order to get or create an object for, or specifically for Twitch. I think I want to do the same thing, but for getting them as well. So, or actually I could probably use this. The problem is find or create gives me the impression that it'll create one, which probably isn't necessarily true. All right, so I'm going to do find for Twitch, public function for Twitch. And so I am going to just return this value. So it's just a little bit of sugar on top of the default functionality here. So return find one by. This should work if I don't actually get one value. I believe it's going to give me an exception, but I think I'm okay with that in this particular case. Because I wouldn't want to do this if I haven't actually got valid credentials right now. So we can do find for Twitch, and then this object, I'm going to set a return type of, let's see, app OAuth credentials. And I should do the same thing down here as well, so that PHP Storm can do a little more stuff with auto typing and whatnot. So this is an unused variable. And so we need to do here, update token is app OAuth credentials get access token. All right, so this should be all we need to do. I'm going to remove the rest of this stuff. And again, this is still a lot of hard coding in place. But I think it's okay because it gives us a good idea of what we're doing. All right, so let's see. We can do bin console. And I just want to double check spelling. So we got Twitch publish metadata. So in theory, if anybody is actually looking on Twitch right now, you'd be able to see the name change. And if anybody is on Twitch and can let me know, that would actually be awesome. So I'm going to run the command. Oh. Get function get app client ID on null. All right, so where was that? 46. Okay, so I need to actually finish wiring this up. So we have all the pieces that we need. We're going to do a constructor, because it's trying to do stuff on objects that it doesn't know anything about. So let's see here. We should get considerably further now that we've done this. Now the container knows what to send. All right, so it's not correctly initialized. Probably forgot to call the parent. Oh, yep. So Symfony commands are traditionally meant to be statically instantiated in order to get them to work as services so that you can take advantage of things like auto wiring, you have to call the parent constructor. I sometimes forget that. And Symfony's been doing a lot of work on the messages that they give back so that it's easier for people to understand what's going on. So this little bit right here, you probably forgot to call the parent constructor, is exactly what was wrong, which is pretty cool. Okay, so that's sent out. There we go. Let's see if it switched. Yep, so it's updated. So that's awesome. I'm excited about that. So now we know that it works. There's some stuff that we can do to kind of make this work a little better. So this is still a lot of boilerplate and things like that. So what I'd like to do is extract sort of this building of the Twitch API instance out to something else. And I think this falls pretty clearly under the factory pattern because we need a factory to build the Twitch API for us using information from other pieces. So what we're going to do is go into the Twitch namespace and let's do a new class and let's call it the Twitch API factory, and then let's make sure and say we are the app Twitch API factory. All right, so now the nice thing is that we can take some of these dependencies that were on our command here and move them. So the things that were needed up to the point that we created this was the app config and the URL generator and I think that was it. We actually needed the OAuth repository still. So I'm going to move that below because this wasn't required to build the options. So this is the stuff that we can move in. So what we can do now is remove the dependencies for Twitch app config and URL generator. So those are no longer needed here. Instead, we need to put them in the factory. So we can now bring in these. Need to make sure and get the right ones. All right. Let's see here. Okay, so we got rid of those. That means that this constructor is no longer valid. So I'm going to remove this and regenerate it just using the, oh, actually I did that too quickly. Now we can add our Twitch API factory. So we can do private app Twitch API factory, because this is the thing that we need now, because this is going to do the work for us. Twitch API factory. Cool. Now we get to generate the constructor. We might be doing this part a few times. Why is this complaining? Oh. So I need to make sure every time I do this to call parent constructor. So every time I rebuild this constructor, I need to do some extra work with it. So I no longer have this logic anymore. And instead, I can do the following. App Twitch API factory and something. So let's just call it build, because that's a good name for a factory. So let's do app Twitch API factory. And we're going to return a Twitch API instance. And I'm actually going to undo this real quick and copy this text that I deleted, because that's actually something that we need to reuse. All right, so we're asking the app Twitch API factory to do the building. And now we are going to essentially do the same things that we did before. And we can do return new Twitch API and pass in options. So it has everything that it needs at this point. So this little bit of code that was now in multiple places can be just put into one. So let's make sure that this still works. I'm going to do PHP. Do some minor changes here. So in console, get app client ID on null. So I forgot something here. So I didn't do the constructor for this class. So in order for it to be able to get its dependencies, it does need a constructor. Auto wiring makes it really nice, but you still have to accept these values. And now if we rerun, ooh, Twitch app config. Oh, where was I using that? That's actually some code that's still relying on the config. Let's see if we need that anymore. Oh, we do. Interesting. So I got a little ahead of the game there. So we actually need that dependency. So I'm going to add that back on here just so that we have it. So Twitch API factory, app Twitch config. Got a little greedy trying to get rid of some of these dependencies. All right, let's get rid of that. Now let's see if that gets us there. No, Twitch app config. Oh, did I spell it wrong? Yeah, I did. This is which this is where it would be nice to be a little more consistent with the naming stuff. So preserve case. There we go. Okay, and just make sure it actually changed. Did some lowercase things. Yep, so it changed it. Cool. So that's there. So I wasn't able to get as much out of this as I was hoping. I really thought that I'd be able to get away without that, but I think that's something more for some of this additional service layer stuff. Right now we're building a factory. This particular problem that we're seeing is why I want to take it to the next level and maybe build an API wrapper around Twitch API that takes some of this stuff for me so that I don't have to worry about it. So that'll be coming up, but for now it looks like we need to leave this here. What we can do though is we can go look at that controller that we had before and see what things we need here. So it's creating all of this information directly from this object, but we can probably roll this all the way back to accept the app Twitch API factory. All right, and I think we can get rid of URL generator. So this is the code that had been copied and pasted between the command and the controller. So we don't need that. Do we need Twitch app config? No, it's not being used by anything. So we can do this, and we can replace this with using the factory. So eventually we're going to roll this back to the point where we aren't getting the factory even. We're going to have a service that will use the factory to generate a client for us. So we can get rid of URL generator. And I think Twitch app config. We still need to do work with the actual OAuth repository for this particular project. And I'm going to get rid of this because we don't really need that. In fact, we'll just get rid of it entirely. Ideally, we should do something else more interesting here. We should redirect to somewhere, or at least show something on the screen to let the user know that, yes, everything was fine. The user in this case being me, because we're working just with the app stuff at this point. Let's see if we can walk through that flow and make sure that that hasn't broken. Do app. It's going to do the redirect. Ooh, must return a response null given. Okay, so, but did it change the data? Yes, it did. Let's try it one more time just for good measure. So this is a case where I should do something more interesting or more meaningful with this controller, but I'm not super excited to do that right now just because this is an internal thing. This is something that I should only do every once in a while. All right, so it is giving me a new access token, so it is working. I think the other thing I should do at this point is probably find a way, and I think I can do it now, to move this process into a proper command. So it's using the same information, it's using the same ape, so it's doing this. So that's all it's doing. So let's create a new command. Let's do bin console make command app twitch. We'll do connect app. All right, so that created a new command for us. Pretty much the only thing I think we need is the factory. So we're going to do private app Twitch API factory. All right, so do a constructor. All right, so things we're going to do in here then. I don't know if I'm going to need any of this stuff. The only thing I really need to do is get the Twitch API. So we'll do factory build. So that should give me everything that I need. And then I should be able to write some output using the URL that we generate. So where's the URL? There we go, get authentication URL. Say success. Finish connecting the app to Twitch by following this URL. So this will effectively get us away from the little procedural file that we've been using for testing. Since we have enough to work with now in the various parts of the app, it's going to be easier just to build stuff up that way. So I need to remember, again, to do construct here. And then I'm going to run this command. Let's see how it works. Bin console. Awesome. All right. So this is probably not the right, I probably don't need to do success. What was some of the other style options we had from the boilerplate? There's a note. Let's see what that looks like. Because I don't want that word wrap. Since the word wrap is there, if I try to copy this, it's going to actually have that space in there. I wonder, IO, let's see here, let's just do text. Still had a space in front of it. Messages. There we go. That's probably okay, I guess. So this command is what I'll be able to run anytime we find out that the OAuth for the app has been broken. Then I can log into the link and undefined index scope. That's actually an error. I don't know how long we've been seeing those actually. So it's It's not setting scope here. So that might actually, that's something that I need to look at. Where are we setting scope? In the options. Okay. So let's go back here. There we go. Okay, so now we're back to where we were before. Let's go ahead and double check to make sure that scope thing doesn't break the publish metadata command. And let's change this back to something more live. Ooh, I forgot to... Speaking of which, app stream push online. In the back of my head, I still have the Heroku webhooks working, but in reality, they are not. They're not working at all. So this little off-air thing should have turned to on-air as soon as we actually went online. Oh, I did that wrong. There we go. But since it's the webhooks aren't working for whatever reason, I have to remember to manually turn it on. So if this works right, this should actually switch to on-air real time, which is good. So that stuff, that's working. What I wanted to do was change the title to the actual title. So let's do this. We'll use that for how we're testing the publish metadata. All right. Cool. Okay, so that's there. So those pieces are all good. So the things that we're still running into are that we need to do some additional work in the case of the app. So when we looked at the the publish metadata command, we need to get this user ID. This is a command that's probably going to have to be passed quite a bit, or this property, so it should just be there. So what I'm going to do is try to build a service layer specifically for the app, so that we can do Twitch API calls, sending it as little information as possible. For example, I want to be able to do something like app Twitch API set title, or I'll call it status just because that's what Twitch calls it. So I want to be able to do this and just have it do the right thing. I don't care about any of this other stuff. I just want the things that I care about for it to do them correctly. So the things that we're going to need this app to do, it's going to need to be able to create the Twitch API. So it's going to need the Twitch API factory. It's going to need the app's OAuth credentials, which means it probably is going to need the app OAuth credentials repository. And then I think those are the big pieces. Oh, the Twitch app config. So this namespace is starting to get a little cluttered for my liking. What I think I'm going to do is create a new namespace. So let's do app. And in here, we'll create the new service class. We'll do app Twitch API. And we're going to put the first function in that we know we need. So we'll go back into this command and say, actually, I'm not going to use set because that implies something different to some people sometimes. So let's do update, which actually matches better with what's going on here. So let's do, what do they call it in the UI? It is title, so I'm going to call it that. So let's do update channel title. We'll do new title. Well, we'll just call it title. And then inside, we need to do this stuff. So let's probably, we don't need to build the Twitch API just yet. We might actually do some other building level stuff. But let's copy all of this code and then trim some. All right, so let's get rid of this because that's actually what we are now. So let's start building these things that we needed. The other thing that we need to consider is whether we want this Twitch API instance to be object level or scoped to just the function. Like, do we want to create a new Twitch API per instance? I think for now we will, just for simplicity's sake, but eventually we might need to do something a little different where this object actually takes in a Twitch API instance. So we'll do private app Twitch API factory. It's not going to be the most performance friendly, but I don't think it'll matter for us. All right, so that clears that one up. Now we need the app OAuth credentials repository. So that we can get the information out of there that we need. Twitch app config, so we'll need that as well. Twitch app config. This is the Hello, and I'm back. My bad on that. I have no idea where I lost people. It looks like the Restream provider gave me some issues there, so hopefully I'm back up. Thanks for letting me know, Adam. Awesome. Cool. All right, so let's see, where were we? All right, so we're back at the point where we are creating the constructor for the app Twitch API. So this is now doing a bunch of stuff for us that we don't need to do otherwise, which is great. So now I should be able to go back to here, and I should be able to change some of this. So I no longer need the OAuth credentials repository, and I no longer need Twitch app config. So I can essentially get rid of pretty much all of this. And the only thing I really need to be passed in is the app Twitch API. So all of this other stuff that we've been dealing with, we don't need anymore because we've abstracted it all. So let's get rid of this. No, that's not what we needed. App Twitch API. There we go. The constructor we can use. I'll copy this before I delete it. All right, so I think this will work. Let's do session 2. Sweet. All right, so we have session 2. So we've now managed to create a service layer that is a lot easier to work with. We can use this more, I don't know, it's just easier to use this than having to remember to do all of the other stuff. So let's go back to that controller that we were looking at earlier and see if there's anything else we can do here. Twitch API, we're building it. I'm not sure that there's a whole lot of, well, there would be that extra build step that we wouldn't necessarily need to do. Doesn't buy us a lot. But let's do it anyway, because it will clear up the amount of stuff that we, no, that won't even change either. Let's go back here. update channel title. Maybe we'll just leave that as it is for now, because I don't think we're not going to do a lot of other code related to this, except for if we get to refresh tokens and there are issues there and we have to do other stuff. So then at that point, we'd probably have to do something different. But for now, I think this is probably good. So yeah, so Adam in chat is saying that it seems like the controller is still doing a lot, and it really is doing a lot. Which is one reason why it might be nice not to at least do this for now. Let's go ahead and add that since it's there. Looks like Joe's just joined us. Hey, Joe. Twitch API. So let's go ahead and do, we might actually just call it this. So get access, is it got access credentials? Yeah. We'll just use the same thing here. And we can probably copy some of this code. All right, so to create the Twitch API, we're going to steal this little chunk of code, which is just adding this, more or less. We can't do anything with that. And then we can return. So it's just a pass-through, but it abstracts some of this stuff that's going on, which I don't know if it really provides a lot of value, but it will clean this up just a little bit. So we can do, instead of the Twitch API now, we can instead get the app Twitch API. We don't need the factory. We can now just do access credentials equals there. That cleaned it up a tiny bit. Would probably be nice to move more of this into the service layer somehow. Find some other way to do some of this. But I think I'm going to leave it like it is for now. This is probably as far as I want to go. Let's see if we can, oh, not that one. See if I can make sure we didn't break something. Oh, yeah, okay, so doing all the awesome things here. There we go. And then we want connect app. Okay. Okay, so that's good. So that's still giving us an error, but it looks like it's still working. So we didn't break anything by breaking this code out, which I think is good. All right, so the service layer that we have now is very, very little. It's very light, but it's doing the things that I actually want it to do. The other thing I'd like to do is consider moving this actually into a proper command message instead. Rather than actually doing the work inside here, I might want to do it somewhere else, like from a cron job or something like that. So we've already done some work with messages before, but not necessarily here. So what I'm going to do is create a command, and let's do Twitch. Actually, I'm not even going to do Twitch. I don't think I'm going to do that just yet. Let's leave it like this for now. What we can do is give more stuff in here to get this actually from the right location. So if we look at schedule controller, we do a bunch of really nasty stuff in here that shouldn't be in a controller. And what I want to do is find a way to get the next thing. So find current or upcoming sessions. I think this is what I want to get. So that I can find the name of whatever session is current or upcoming. So let's go ahead and get the session repository. So sessions in this case are the live sessions. It doesn't mean anything else that you might think a session might be. So let's open this up. Okay. So this session repository, find current or upcoming sessions. And I kind of want to just see what these look like. So collect I'll just get a little tiny thing out. So we'll do number. And then we'll get the actual, actually that's probably all we need. And let's not make the actual call anymore. So we're just going to do some debug stuff here for a bit. All right, so it sees current or upcoming episodes. So it sees these. Let's see what dates they have. Because I'm guessing this isn't actually right. Get scheduled broadcast. Let's see. Oh. Well, this one definitely is in the past. This one's in the future, though. Let me see. Okay, so I'm doing some really loose stuff here to determine when things are still upcoming. So if we look in the back end, what we're going to find is that the episode that, or the session that was scheduled for November 20th doesn't actually have a broadcast date. So it has a scheduled date, but not a broadcast date. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to change that. I'm going to give it a broadcast date, and then it shouldn't show up anymore. I'm doing some really fuzzy logic with some of this date stuff right now. It's kind of a pain, but it's not a whole lot I can do about it unless I want to spend a long time working on it. I'm not really ready for that yet. So if I go back now to live sessions, it should see that the next session is this one. The thing I probably should have paid attention to was which one showed up first. So it looks like whichever probably is the one at the end that's first, because this one was in the past. So what I should do is get the last item. Current sessions. So let's get these now so we can do other stuff with them. All right, so we're going to collect those. If I run it again, it should only have one value. What I should do is next session, I'll call it next current or next session. We'll do current or upcoming, last. Let's see if that works. And then I can cheat. Just reuse that code. Okay, so last on an array. Okay. There we go. Can't call last if it's not a collection. Okay, so that works. So the next thing I'm going to do, just to make sure the logic is sound, is I'm going to go back into the admin. I'm going to update this broadcast date to be today. So I'm going to take broadcasted off. So leave it empty. And let's set it for the 29th at 1600. All right. So live sessions. This one is happening on December 1st. This one is happening on December 29th. So in this situation, it should be showing me this value is next. So number 5. Yep, so that logic appears to be sound. So now what I can do is actually update the Twitch channel with the correct information. So Twitch API, update channel to title. And title, sprintdef, let's do project name, session, and then session number, and then we'll do title. Okay, let's do actually put this on the next line. It's gonna make it pretty long. So project name, it's gonna be session get project get name. There we go. We're gonna have to do some error handling as well because this may not always have a value. So current next session, get number, and current next session. Let's see, I think that's on video. Get video. No. So, oh no, that's a session. Video, get title. All right, so I think this should get us the title that we're looking for, and then we can pass that title off to Twitch. Can also get rid of this junk, at least for now. Could probably do this. So I don't really need to have that other stuff there. So collect it last. So this is cleaning up this function quite nicely, I think. So let's try to run it. All right, executed rather quickly. Reload this, and what do we have? Bootstrapping Astrocast session 5. Awesome. So that's not actually the name of this particular episode that we're watching now, so this isn't appropriate, but it is getting this from the next session. So the next one is this one. Yeah, so it is this one, duration settings and scheduling in advance, I think, right? That's what we, yep. So everything's there. Once I actually get the taxonomies and stuff set up in the system, I'd probably like to be able to do things like PHP, Symfony, whatever other things I want to do, just so that people have an idea as the stream's happening, what's actually going on there. So it looks like this is working. Maybe I think tomorrow we'll probably look at what happens with refresh, because our little service layer is pretty basic. If we go to, let's see, it's this one here, update channel, this creates our Twitch API. It gets our existing credentials. The retry mechanism here, if this function fails, or if this call fails, we don't do anything with it. And I'm guessing that what we'll probably end up doing at these sorts of things is some sort of try, and then catch if there's an error. And then hopefully there's a way to actually see if it has to do with needing a refresh, at which point we can do Twitch API, refresh token, and that's going to be refresh. We'd get this then from this Twitch app config get, no, not that, would be from these credentials here. Get refresh token. Then I don't know what happens. I don't know what this looks like. So this bit of code, I have no idea. If it's going to come back with the same OAuth credentials type structure, my guess is that the thing that Adam mentioned about this part, doing too much, is probably going to need to become a service. I'm guessing that if it gives back the same sort of thing as get access credentials does, then we're going to be doing the same exact bit of code in both places. It's just that one is a result of access credentials versus the other is a result of getting refresh tokens. So thanks for joining today. Thanks for joining in chat. It's a lot more fun when there's people talking along as we go. And I will see you. Wait, actually, tomorrow is not a streaming day. So I guess I will see you on Monday. Thanks again for joining. Have a good night.